To Arirang News, I'm Kim Yo Jong in Seoul. It's day 3 of the Pyeongchang 2018 Winter Olympics, and excitement is high amid the bone-chilling weather. We're expecting more medals from South Korean athletes this week, with South Korea getting its first gold medal in the men's short track speed skating over the weekend. There was also the landmark visit by Kim Yo Jong, the influential sister of North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un, and the first of the North ruling Kim family to set foot on South Korean soil. With a remarkable diplomatic breakthrough between South and North Korea, will North Korea's diplomacy outlast the Olympics? For President Moon, it could be a defining moment for his leadership. Before we sit down with an expert to talk more about the issues surrounding the Olympics, let's first connect to Devin Whiting at the News Center for a quick look at what's making the news at this hour. Devin, take us away.
Hi, Myung-gil. Well, the high-level delegation North Korea sent to the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, including Kim Jong-un's sister Kim Yo Jong, returned to North Korea late Sunday night. They spent 3 days in South Korea, during which Kim Yo Jong delivered a letter to South Korean President Moon JaeIn that included an invitation for him to visit Pyongyang at an early date. The North's state media on Monday called the delegation's visit meaningful and said it helped improve inter-Korean relations. The South Korean government said the diplomatic momentum from their visit needs to be used to ensure that talks take place between Pyongyang and Washington. A critical point on that front will come in April, when the U.S. and South Korea are due to hold their annual joint military exercises, which have been postponed for the Olympics. Now, the South Korean government does say North Korea appears increasingly committed to improving inter-Korean relations. Seoul's Unification ministry said Sunday that the government will make efforts to keep up the momentum for inter-Korean dialogue created by the North Korean delegation's 3-day visit. It said the basic foundation has been laid for the leaders of the two Koreas to discuss inter-Korean issues, with the understanding of pending issues on the Korean peninsula enhanced. But the ministry said that while the foundation for peace was created, the ministry admitted there was no tangible progress toward denuclearization. North Korea's presence at the Winter Olympics, though, has led to worries that the regime is trying to weaken the Seoul-Washington alliance. But U.S. Vice President Mike Pence has reaffirmed that the alliance is stronger than ever, and U.S. officials say that pressure on the regime will remain until Pyongyang takes steps toward denuclearization. Park So-yeon reports.
With the high-ranking delegations from both the U.S. and North Korea having returned to their home countries, the question now is whether North Korea's Olympic charm offensive could possibly drive a wedge between South Korea and its allies and weaken international solidarity in pressuring the Kim Jong-un regime. U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis said it is too early to tell whether a diplomatic détente between South and North Korea at the Winter Games will lead to any real results, adding that the move had not driven a wedge between Seoul and Washington.
Clearly, it's too early to say if this, using the Olympics in a way to reduce tension, if that's going to have any traction once the Olympics are over. We can't say right now.
And officials in Washington reportedly told Voice of America that pressure on the regime would be reduced once North Korea moves towards a process of denuclearization. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence, who had visited South Korea for the opening of the Winter Games, was confident about the strategy of pressuring the Kim Jong-un regime. He said there's no daylight between South Korea, the U.S., and Japan on the need to continue isolating North Korea economically and diplomatically until the North abandons its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. And if the current measures aren't enough, there's also a possibility that the U.S. will enforce a strict maritime interdiction and potentially a naval blockade to fully enforce sanctions on the regime as early as this month. If realized, it will deal a huge blow to the North Korean economy, already crippled by the series of sanctions imposed by the international community. Park So-yeon, Arirang News.
It's day 3 of the Winter Olympics, a celebration of sport, but the Games also have a strong cultural component. With so many guests flooding in from around the world, the host nation, South Korea, has a chance to promote the best of its art and culture to a global audience. One event that aims to do that is the Pyeongchang 2018 Cultural Olympiad. Our Won Jung-hwan went to check it out and files this report.
The Pyeongchang 2018 Cultural Olympiad is underway in Korea's Olympic host cities. offering all kinds of cultural events such as performances, exhibitions, and experience programs. One of the most highly anticipated events is the K-pop World Festa, which will be held every weekend throughout the Olympic period. The first edition was held Saturday, bringing popular Korean singers to the stage at Gangneung Wonju National University and highlighting Korean cultural content for the whole world.
We came here because this is our school. It's really fun and exciting.
We are really excited about it because back home in Malaysia, this event has become so popular, and of course when you tie it to the Winter Olympic, it's really a package that we wanted to see as well.
K-pop has put Korea on the map of global popular culture. Leading K-pop stars are in Gangneung to commemorate the Olympics being held in their home country, to showcase the host country's culture, and to promote the Winter Games.
K-pop stars are some of the greatest celebrities in the world, and I strongly believe that they will be very good representative models and public ambassadors of the Pyeongchang 2018.
The Pyeongchang 2018 Cultural Olympiad seeks to make Pyeongchang a cultural brand as the center of culture, sports, and leisure tourism, and to build legacies that are sustainable even after the Winter Games. Here at the K-pop World Festa, visitors can feel the heat and enthusiasm of the Pyeongchang 2018's Cultural Olympiad every Saturday until the day before of the closing ceremony. Won Jong-wan, Arirang News, Gangneung.
In other news, the total assets of Samsung Electronics surpassed the 300 trillion won mark, or $270 billion as of the end of last year, thanks to a rise in investments and business growth. It's the first time Samsung has reached that threshold since it was established in 1969. And reports say it's a roughly 15% rise compared to the end of 2016. Over the past decade, the company's assets have grown threefold. On a slightly different note, Samsung Group Chairman Lee Gun-hee is suspected of evading over $7.5 million in taxes by hiding funds in borrowed name accounts under the names of other executives. I'm Devin Whiting, and those are your news headlines for this hour.
The high-level delegation from Pyongyang, including North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's younger sister, Kim Yo Jong, returned to the north yesterday after completing their three-day visit to South Korea. Now, before their departure, President Moon and the North Korean delegation watched a performance by the North Korean art troupe together in Seoul. Our Blue House correspondent Hwang Ho-jun reports.
The rare and historic three-day visit of the North Korean delegation to Seoul came to a close as they returned to Pyongyang on a North Korean plane from Incheon International Airport late Sunday night. Their departure came after the high-profile delegation, including Kim Jong-un's powerful younger sister, watched a final concert by the Samjiyon Orchestra side-by-side with South Korean President Moon JaeIn. It was President Moon and Kim Yo Jong's fourth close encounter since they first greeted each other during the opening ceremony of the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. During the concert, the two sides expressed hope that the momentum of dialogue and reconciliation will continue.
Now that we have set a foundation to exchange opinions and even hold reunions with President Moon Jae-in, I return home with the hope we can meet again.
Kim Yo Jong, who was part of the 22-member delegation led by the ceremonial head of state Kim Yong-nam, was also revealed to be the North Korean leader's special envoy as she delivered a personal letter from Kim Jong-un to the South Korean president on Saturday when the North's delegation paid a visit to Seoul's presidential office at Cheongwade. The letter contained an invitation for the South Korean leader to visit Pyongyang. Moon responded that he hopes that, quote, the right conditions will be created so that the proposed visit can take place. Before attending the art troupe's performance, the South Korean Prime Minister hosted a luncheon and President Moon's Chief of Staff hosted a farewell dinner for the North Korean delegation. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
Now, the three-day visit by Pyongyang's delegation led by North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's younger sister, Kim Yo Jong, was a remarkable diplomatic breakthrough leading to hopes for a possible first InterKorean Summit in a decade. And to tell us more, Dr. Poon YongShik, a researcher at the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies, joins us in the studio today. So good to see you.
Hi.
Now, first, yesterday, North Korean delegation actually watched the North Samjeon Orchestra with South Korean President Moon Jae-in together, and it was their last schedule in South Korea. Now, seeing them watch together along side by side as the leaders of both South and North Korea, how do you assess this? Do you think there is any significance towards this?
Of course, it's a very significant watershed moment in the context of inter-Korean cooperation and reconciliation. The delegation composed of three major figures in the Kim Jong-un government, including his own sister, Kim Yo Jong, spent 2 days and 3 nights in Seoul. And President Moon Jae-in himself spent 8 hours in total through 4 meetings with Ms. Kim Yo Jong. So the conversation that must have taken place between the top figures representing both governments would have carried a very significant messages to each other. It is not only important what kind of message Ms. Kim Yo Jong delivered to the side of South Korean government. It is also very important what kind of message, especially with regard to North Korea's denuclearization as absolute preconditions for significant and prolonged improvement of inter-Korean relations that seems to has just taken off. Must be the part of the message delivered by President Moon Jae-in on behalf of not only South Korea but also its security partners, including the United States and Japan.
Right. Now, there had been a lot of speculation towards the content of the Samjeon Orchestra's performance here in Seoul. And there was also a request by South Korea to actually not perform any propaganda music. And also, it seems it's quite different this time around because 2 years ago, the Samjeon Orchestra was called off at China to perform because of propaganda issues. Now, how do you assess the North overall behavior this time in South Korea?
We have to remember that the Samjeon Orchestra is a part of the Bureau of Propaganda and Agitation, which is a very important arm of the North Korean government. And their performance, including the selection of the repertoire they play, must be in line with the overall North Korea approach to South Korea in the name of charm offensive. At the beginning of the negotiation, on the terms of the Samjeon's dispatchment to South Korea and a decision on the musics to play, there have been a great deal of criticism expressed by the North Korean government and the way that the Korean media dealt with the upcoming visit by North Korean athletes, the performers and the athletes. For instance, the Korean Central News Agency, the mouthpiece of the North Korean government, criticized the Korean media. I hope Arirang TV was not one of the targets. I mean, using very harsh words like garbage. But the North Korean government must have realized that maintaining very critical attitude toward conservative voice in the South Korean society would not really help the efficacy of the more important foreign policy objective toward South Korea, which is to make its charm offensive through the art performance and the sending in athletes to the Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games a success. So you detected a sudden change of the attitude and tone in the way that the North Korean news media portrayed the way South Korean people and the government welcomed the Samjeon Orchestra and other athletes.
That's right. And let's shift our focus to the possible inter-Korean summit. Now, North Korea surprisingly suggested to South Korean President Moon Jae-in to visit Pyongyang to meet with their leader, Kim Jong-un. Now, what do you see the significance of this invitation?
Well, first of all, I don't think there is too much element of surprise or shock that Ms. Kim Yo Jong offered the official invitation by Chairman Kim Jong-un to South Korean President Moon Jae-in to make a visit to Pyongyang. That proposal was long expected since the Chairman Kim Jong-un made a bold proposal in his New Year's message to the nation that we have to make this year, 2018, as a apocal year in terms of inter-Korean cooperation. So it was rather fairly obvious that the proposal for the third Inter-Korean Summit meeting was in the cards. And President Moon Jae-in himself made the offer first, even prior to the visit by Ms. Kim Yo Jong during the Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games, that he was ready to meet Chairman Kim Jong-un whenever or wherever, as long as the summit meeting would be expected to, result in some fruitful outcomes. So it is not just a first or unilateral invitation for Inter-Korean Summit meeting by North Korean government first, but it is rather reply or response to Moon Jae-in government of South Korea's proposal to Inter-Korean Summit meeting. But nonetheless, it was very shocking to see that Chairman Kim Jong-un's sister was appointed as a special envoy to deliver the message to President Moon Jae-in herself.
Now, as you mentioned, Kim Yo Jong was actually the special envoy from North Korea. Now, why do you think Kim Jong-un chose Kim Yo Jong as his special envoy? And could it signify the importance of maybe the summit talks proposal?
It shows the seriousness of the Kim Jong-un government about the Inter-Korean Summit meeting and widening the purview of Inter-Korean cooperation, at least this year, 2018. Chairman Kim Jong-un is left with only very few people that he can trust because of the relentless shuffling in the cabinet and the military, sometimes taking the form of very brutal oppression and purges, including the killing of his own uncle and many old generals who had served a long time under his father. So Kim Jong-un can only trust very few people, including his own sister, Kim Yo Jong, although in terms of physical age, Kim Yo Jong is reported to be only in her 30s. So Kim Jong-un needed to send somebody he could have a full trust so that whatever is going to be reported by Kim Yo Jong after her return from her visit to Pyeongchang and Seoul can be trusted. And he needed somebody who could represent himself without creating any misconceptions or misunderstandings on the part of South Korea, because this is a very delicate dancing taken by Kim Jong-un government in order to break out of the strangling impact of the economic sanctions and international isolation.
Now, President Moon Jae-in responded to Kim Jong-un's sudden abrupt talk offer by saying, let's make it happen when certain conditions are met in the near future. Now, when we say certain conditions, what do you think that actually signifies? Do you think maybe possibly North Korea-US talks, bilateral talks maybe?
When President Moon Jae-in accepted, in principle, the invitation for Inter-Korean Summit in Pyongyang, proposed by Kim Yo Jong representing North Korean government, and said that let's make it happen once the conditions are met. Basically, he was talking to Ms. Kim Yo Jong in front of him, but also talking to Trump administration behind his back, that any progress on the front of inter-Korean relations cannot be made in the long run without visible and meaningful progress in terms of denuclearization of North Korea, which is the absolute preconditions for the United States engaging in discussions with North Korea. So it was a credit to Moon Jae-in government as an ally to the United States to emphasize this interconnectivity between progress in inter-Korean relations and the progress on the front of the denuclearization.
Right. Now, concerning denuclearization, now, while having the informal talks on Saturday, President Moon Jae-in actually did not mention about North Korea's denuclearization. So how can we understand this?
Well, I mean, it's very clear when he made a reference to the conditions that should be met, then it could be interpreted as South Korea remaining shoulder to shoulder with Washington in terms of maintaining maximum pressure on North Korea until North Korea will make a discernible changes with regard to its pursuit of nuclear weapons and intercontinental missiles. I mean, you are absolutely correct that many people in Washington and the conservative in South Korea actually have a critical opinion on President Moon Jae-in, not actually using the magic word, D word, denuclearization, in the face of the Ms. Kim Yo Jong as a head of the state of South Korea. But I would say that when you spend 8 hours in 4 meetings, very close to the actual person, which is Ms. Kim Yo Jong, then President Moon Jae-in must have many opportunities and many ways to deliver the message very clearly to Ms. Kim Yo Jong that denuclearization is an absolute preconditions for any improvement, even improvement of the inter-Korean relations. So without actually using the D word, I think the message has been delivered to North Korea.
Right. Now, the United States seems very skeptical concerning North Korea's sudden charm offensive. Now, Vice President Mike Pence actually did not encounter with the North Olympic delegation in Pyeongchang, and he seemed sort of to avoid the North delegation, of which the White House actually denied. Now, do you think this actually shows Washington's firm stance towards North Korea itself?
Yeah, definitely. As you said, the White House insisted that the Vice President of the United States did not intentionally avoid North Korean delegate, Chairperson Kim Yo Jong. So I think it's just a continuation of the same message to North Korea. You have to first make the move to accept denuclearization as a absolute preconditions for any meaningful engagement between Pyongyang and Washington. So Vice President Mike Pence actions while he stayed in South Korea spoke volume that there would be absolutely no concessions prior to North Korea making the first move. But in addition to that, in his way back to Washington, according to today's Washington Post report, that Vice President did not rule out having talks on the denuclearization with North Korea taking place sooner or later in conjunction with 2 Korean governments moving toward realization of the 3rd InterKorean Summit meeting.
Right now, in order for InterKorean Summit talks to actually happen, we do see that we do need some kind of form of dialogue between Washington and Pyongyang. Now, do you think North Korea? What do you think North Korea is reacting to this, and what do you think it's on their minds about such bilateral talks between Pyongyang and Washington?
2 things. One of the biggest objectives in the mind of the political leaders in Pyongyang is to dilute the existing economic sanctions, because North Korean system is a very different system that it used to be during the period of food crisis in late 1990s, during which about 10% of the entire population was decimated because of simple starvation, food shortage. So after the food crisis, North Korean system has been evolved into something different, more heavily dependent upon some forms of the market activities, although the government would not officially recognize or endorse them, and the trade through China. So economic sanctions have become so effective on North Korea, every nook and cranny of North Korean society, because now North Korean government officials, soldiers, and the public are living on some kind of semi-capitalist economic activities. And the soldiers and party officials are living on taking bribes and through corruptions. Economic sanctions deprived North Korean public, soldier, party officials of these opportunities to make living. So economic sanctions have been working. That explains why suddenly North Korean leadership began to regard South Korea as its best partner, which it used to just dismiss, completely as a legitimate player in the denuclearization talk. When you have a friend who used to criticize you that you are so arrogant simply because you have more money than that, I'm more self-reliant, 주체. And you despise me because you have a strong friend whose name is Uncle Sam. And the friend did not call you for a long time, but suddenly he called you and asked for meetings. Engage in charm offensive. What does it suggest? The friend must have something, must need something desperately. That is, to escape from the strangling effect of economic sanctions, to loosen up sanctions by taking into South Korea closer to North Korea in the name of Korean solidarity and inter-Korean relations.
Right. Unfortunately, we don't have time to discuss about Japan's stance and the joint U.S. military drills with South Korea. But I guess we'll have to certainly see how things start to unfold after the Pyeongchang Winter Olympic Games.
Right. We have to wait and see.
Sure. Thank you for your insight today.
You're welcome.
And that brings us to the end of our show, but stay tuned to Arirang for more news updates throughout the day. As always, thank you for watching and goodbye for now.
열정,
짜릿함, 감동,
exciting, 보는 재미가 있고,
Pyeongchang.
Pyeongchang.
Welcome to Pyeongchang.